I once soul gazed with Mother Bear. I ain't joking. And it was looking into Mother Bear's eyes that I had one of the most profound spiritual experiences ever. And I felt an incredible power and wisdom when I looked at her. And all the time I try to recall what I felt and let it live through me. And you know, this is kind of one of those moments for me personally, and I figured I might as well record it and share it. Okay, so it was like a 3-day thing, alright? It wasn't just 1 day of bear. It was 3 days of bear. And it began with a beautiful cinnamon-colored bear. Literally the prettiest bear I've ever seen. And I was heading down the drainage, and this bear was coming up. And I noticed it because it's like that color doesn't fit in. That color doesn't happen in nature often. And I think that bear was thinking the same thing of me. It was like 15 minutes of us like looking around the trees at each other and like staring, and it was just a very playful, joyful, like curious interaction. At no point in time did I fear that bear. It was a young bear, very, very young, gangly little teenager bear. I'm sure it had just left its mother that spring. And that's what it was. It was, I think, the undisturbed nature of bear. And it just went up the drainage behind me. That was it. Like, it was a joyful, playful, curious experience. It was nice, actually. Okay, so that was day 1. The next day, day 2, I encountered the animalistic boar. Okay, for this one, I was again heading down the drainage, and you know, as I'm going down, I could hear like I thought a tree had fallen or a rock was rolling or something like that, and I had this sense of like, I need to get out of the way, you know, I'm gonna get crushed. And it wasn't until a massive black boar was standing in front of me that I was like, oh shit, that's a bear. And he was breathing heavy. He had been running for a while, and like this encounter was only maybe like 10-20 seconds tops. And he stopped, and then he quartered to me, and it was kind of like a come at me, like it was an aggressive quarter. And immediately I was like, I need to get out of here. This is not good. Like, the feeling of that bear was like a savage, rip you to shreds in a second kind of feeling. Like, that's a bear, if you pushed into a corner, he'd kill you. For sure. And I immediately was like, I need to get out of here. Egress. And there was like a pause, and we're staring at each other, and it was like I realized in this pause that like the reason why he was this savage animal, he's fearful. He felt fearful. Even though he was ready to tear me to shreds in that second, he was scared. And I realized that it was, you know, torment and pain that had created the savage beast. That's a bear that had been chased by dogs and shot at for a while, alright? And it was like, when I realized he was gonna keep going and keep running, it wasn't because he didn't want to destroy me, it was because he was still afraid. He had to go, right? So I was spared, not for anything nice, it was just fear that kept that bear going. Okay, and then he was gone. I had to go back to the truck and take a little snack break after that. The next day is when I met Mother Bear. You know, I'm standing on plot, and I could hear like a squirrel. I was like, oh damn, big squirrel, and I turn and look. It was not a squirrel. Not at all. 2 little baby bear cubs climbing up the tree. And my initial reaction was to go, aw, because I mean, God, have you ever seen a bear cub? They're so adorable. It's like a weird round dog. And then my next thought was, where's Mama? And the body knows. It's funny how your body can kind of just know if you're being creeped on or whatever, but it was just like, I turned to exactly where she was. It was just like I knew that she was staring at the back of my head, basically. And the way that everything was set up was like, I was on a knob. And then she was just off the knob, right? And she was standing on her back legs. And the way that everything lined up is that when we locked eyes, right? We were eye to eye, chest to chest. And I don't know how close she was, really. Everything in those moments feel like much closer than they actually are, probably. But I could hear her breathing. So, close enough. Close enough, and this is where things got really weird, and I don't know if I could ever, like, relay the words to you what I felt, but I'm gonna try. Right? The very first thing I felt was that feeling of the animalistic boar. The one that was gonna just rip me to fucking shreds. Out of fear. Out of pain and torment. That was the initial reaction. And I think that she had considered the same thing I did, that her cubs were actually closer to me than to her. I could have just reached up and snagged one. The next thing I felt was like what the cinnamon bear felt like. And I think that what she was considering is that her cubs were there. She was thinking about, you know, the base state of bear, the joyful, playful, innocent bear. Just thinking about that. And then there was a third feeling of just tiredness, is the way that I can describe it. Which I think all mama bears can relate. Okay, we tired. And it's the kind of tiredness that comes from knowing the joyful innocence and the pureness of cub. But also knowing that your cub has to go out into the world and experience pain and torment that creates the animalistic boar, and your cub is going to have to decide which one it is. To grapple with the reality of life, I suppose. There's a certain level of tiredness that the mama bears have about that. And it was this weird moment where I could tell that, like, she decided to lay down the animalistic, savage animal reaction, to put down the pain and the torment, and to opt for the preservation of the innocence of her cubs. So unlike Boar, who left me alone because he was afraid, she left me alone for a desire for innocence to be maintained, for the cubs to be protected. She put down pain and torment and opted for love. I can't quit with the love stuff, okay? I'm sorry. Jeez Louise. Mama Bear left me alone because she loved her cubs. And it was in that moment that I realized that that is like true power, true wisdom. To be able to hold both of those things. Like to hold the pain and the torment, to know what an animalistic boar is like, and then to know what the innocent cub is like, and to choose, to consciously choose the peaceful path. That's where the power and wisdom is. And like, don't get it twisted. This is the other thing that I learned from Mother Bear. Don't get it twisted, right? Whenever you can, opt for the peaceful path. But if there's ever something that truly does threaten the innocence and the peace of your joyful, innocent cubs, you can rip that shit apart. You can destroy that motherfucker. That's something you can fight for, okay? So I guess it's like a 2-part lesson. To opt for the peaceful path, to put down the fear and the pain, to opt for the peaceful path always, but be willing to put the fuck up and fight for the innocence of your cubs, if need be. That's what I learned from Mother Bear. And even now, I call upon Mother Bear's fucking energy, because it's like I catch myself doing this thing, okay? I'm out here trying to elicit some level of positive response in the face of climate change for the forest, right? Because Earth is my God. I obviously love deeply the animals of the forest. You know, I want my children's children to have the forest. It may not look the way that it does now for me, but I would like to maintain some piece of that for them. Right? And my heart's good. I'm questing in that direction, but even still, I catch myself, you know, doing things out of fear. Even with right intent and moving in the right direction, sometimes you can get a little bit lost. And I catch myself doing things out of fear, like, I need to accomplish this so that other people can see, or, you know, fear of failure drives me quite often, or just like those types of things, those like internalized fears that I have as a human. That shit pops up, and I catch myself doing the work for those reasons every now and again. And I have to remind myself what Mother Bear taught me is that there is no power in that. That the true power comes when you put down your fears and you move from a space that is aimed at doing the work to preserve what is good and true for the cubs. That's it. That's all I wanted to share about Mother Bear. Thank you for being here. I really do appreciate you. Much love.